The ocean is heating up, disturbances are on the move, and the forecasting models are starting to whisper about change. Today, August 6th, 2026, marks a turning point in the Atlantic hurricane season. What has been an unusually quiet, almost record-setting lull is now beginning to show cracks around the edges. Let's be upfront, nothing is currently spinning. There is no organized system out there, and the National Hurricane Center isn't tracking any imminent threat. But here's why this matters today. The atmospheric pattern is shifting. The ingredients are slowly coming together, and in the tropics, trouble rarely announces itself as a hurricane right away. It always starts small warming seas, a cluster of disturbances rolling off the African coast, and computer models that begin to look just a bit different than they did 7 days earlier. That's exactly where things stand, and that's what today's update covers. Colorado State University just dropped its final August forecast for the 22-26 season, 9 named storms for hurricanes, and just 1 major hurricane expected all season. For comparison, an average year brings 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 majors. So this year is running well below normal. CSU actually flagged this as possibly their second lowest August forecast for total named storms on record. The main culprit is El Nino, which has been building all summer and is projected to reach strong, possibly very strong intensity right through the season's peak. El Nino's effect on the Atlantic is well understood. It accelerates upper-level winds across the basin, generating wind. Shear the change in wind speed and direction with altitude. Strong shear acts like scissors, slicing the tops off storms attempting to form. Without a vertically aligned column of spin from sea level to the upper atmosphere, a tropical wave simply can't hold together long enough to become a named storm. That's been the story all season. Shear across the Caribbean has stayed above average since June, and in early July it spiked to the second highest level ever recorded. For that time of year, a striking figure that underscores just how much control El Nino has had. Accumulated cyclone energy, the measure of total storm output across the basin, is running more than 70 below the seasonal norm right now. Not a slow season, a season that's barely stirred. So why are we even talking about development odds on August 6th? Because the calendar matters. August isn't June or July. The atmosphere evolves and the ocean responds in kind. Even in an El Nino year, the tropics have a habit of reminding everyone the season doesn't truly end until November 30th. As of this morning, the Hurricane Center says there's no expected formation anywhere in the Atlantic Caribbean or Gulf over the next 7 days. That's the official RID right now, but the operative phrase is next 7 days. Beyond that window, the tone of the conversation changes and the guidance is starting to reflect it. Forecasters are eyeing a possible uptick in tropical wave activity roughly 10 to 14 days out, around mid-August. Both the Canadian and European models have flagged 1, maybe 2 of these waves as candidates to organize into a depression or named storm. These aren't guarantees. They're early hints. But when multiple independent modeling systems start pointing at the same general time frame, that consistency earns attention. A tropical wave is currently tracking through Central America, having already crossed Jamaica and the Cayman Islands with scattered showers before pushing into Panama, Costa Rica, and toward Cuba. This morning, leftover shower activity is affecting Belize and parts of Honduras, while Nicaragua has seen less impact. Costa Rica and Panama, thanks to their terrain funneling moisture, are getting soaked in places. Some spots could see 3-day totals top 150 mm, roughly 6 inches. It's a patchwork. Some areas drenched, others bone dry, which is typical for how these waves behave in that terrain. Meanwhile, a fresh wave is emerging off the Atlantic, visible on satellite. To be clear, this is not a system expected to develop. But it's carrying plenty of tropical moisture, and as it meets the warm waters of the Western Caribbean and Gulf, it will fuel scattered storms over the coming days. Rain chances by region: Jamaica, 40-50%. Cayman Islands, 30 to 40%. Grand Cayman, slightly higher than Little Cayman, Cayman Brac. Haiti and Dominican Republic, 40%. Belize, ongoing overnight activity. Cuba, continued afternoon convection. Dominica, Martinique, Guadeloupe, 20-30%. Barbados and St. Lucia, 20%. Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, 10-20%. St. Bart's, Saba, St. Eustatius, Yours 10%. Puerto Rico, 30%, badly needed given ongoing dryness. British US Virgin Islands, mostly dry Bahamas, 30%, favoring northern central islands. Turks and Caicos, isolated showers. Possible ABC islands, Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire, and 30%. There's also a plume of Saharan dust moving across the Caribbean, producing that hazy, purplish-gray sky some are noticing along with reduced air quality. Right now, it's affecting the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Haiti, and stretching toward the ABC Islands, St. Lucia, and Barbados. By tomorrow, it shifts west toward Mexico, Belize, Honduras, Nicaragua, and the Providencia, San Andres area, with air quality improving somewhat elsewhere. Dust matters here because it actively works against storm formation. It caps the atmosphere, introduces dry air, lowers humidity levels systems need to intensify, and even cools the sea surface slightly by blocking sunlight. Combined with El Niño's shear, dust has been one half of the 1-2 punch keeping this season quiet. The question now is whether that combination starts to loosen up. Early indications, and this is very preliminary, suggest dust coverage may ease somewhat by mid-month, and shear could relax slightly, even while staying above average overall. That's the narrow opening the models are pointing to for possible development between roughly August 15th and 20th. Water temperature is the fuel of this whole equation, and the news here is straightforward. Sea surface temps across most of the Caribbean and the western central Atlantic are running at or above normal. From Jamaica through the Cayman Islands, Cuba, the Bahamas, into the Gulf and along the southeastern U.S. coast, the water is plenty warm to support any system that manages to get its act together. If something did organize in or near the Gulf, it would find abundant fuel waiting. Farther out in the open Atlantic, where warming typically lags, temperatures have climbed recently, with more areas now exceeding 27 degrees, roughly 82 degrees. Generally, the minimum threshold needed to sustain tropical development. The main development region between Africa and the Caribbean is running near to slightly above normal per CSU's latest data, a more modest anomaly than in some active years, partly because El Niño's dry air has reduced cloud cover, letting more sunlight warm the ocean, even as it suppresses storm formation in the atmosphere above. Bottom line, the ocean's ready. What's been missing is atmospheric cooperation, lower shear, more moisture, organized convergence zones, and the model suggests that window, however brief, may open in about 10 days. The Google DeepMind AI weather model, increasingly respected in meteorological circles, is showing hints of low-pressure signatures forming as tropical waves move through in mid-August. The Canadian and European models are flagging similar potential. None of them show a defined hurricane track or landfall threat. What they show is a signal worth tracking, multiple independent systems converging on the same rough time frame and phenomenon. Honestly, we don't know yet. A wave that organizes in mid-August could barely reach tropical storm strength and curve harmlessly out to sea, bring welcome rain to drought-stressed parts of the Caribbean. Or, less likely but not impossible, strengthen and track toward land. Given El Niño's continued dominance, the odds of an intense hurricane forming from these systems remain low, but the odds of at least one named storm forming before month's end have gone up, which is why this update matters now rather than later. No development signals for the Gulf or southeast U.S. in the near term. Florida remains active with rain 40-150 chances across central Florida, Orlando, Tampa, and South Florida, but that's ordinary sea breeze-driven activity, not tropical Louisiana and Texas. Stay mostly dry short-term, though Houston should see improving shower chances by week's end. A frontal system will bring better storm chances to the mid-Atlantic and New England by Saturday, with some storms possible. Saturday night into Sunday, nothing severe, no tropical link. The Eastern Pacific is carrying abundant moisture, especially near Costa Rica, Panama, and Honduras, and activity there typically ramps up through August. Hawaii and waters south of Mexico are worth watching as that season heats up, though nothing demands attention today. A few minor earthquakes were recorded in the region over the past 24 hours. Nothing significant. But let me know if you felt anything. Seas have stayed relatively calm given how weak and disorganized recent waves have been. Good news for anyone on the water now. Expect that to change. As more organized waves move through in coming weeks, Florida, 24 inches and heavier cells, Bahamas, 10 to 25 millimeters, Costa Rica, Panama, potentially over 150 milliliters across 3 days, Belize, scattered lighter totals. Yucatan, Merida, Campeche, Cancun, 250 milliliters. Northern Lesser Antilles, mostly under 25 milliliters. Guyana, 40 chance over next 3 days. Northern Colombia, 40-150. Northern Venezuela, 40, slightly reduced from earlier. El Niño doesn't last forever. It typically peaks between late fall and early winter. Right now in August, it's still strengthening, keeping shear elevated overall, but short-term atmospheric oscillations can create temporary dips. One key player is the Madden-Julian oscillation, MJO, a pulse of enhanced rainfall and convection that circles the globe every 30 to 60 days. When it moves into a favorable phase over the Atlantic, it can briefly reduce shear and boost moisture, giving waves a short window to organize. Signals suggest the MJO could shift favorably around mid-August. Not enough to cancel El Niño's effects, but potentially enough to open a 1 to 2 week window where a persistent wave could pull itself together. This is the nuance that often gets lost in headline-driven coverage. 2 week. Tropical forecasting is about probabilities and environmental trends, not lock-it-in tracks. What's clear is that the signals now favor development in 10-14 days more than they did 2 weeks ago, a meaningful shift worth watching. A common question, does a quieter forecast mean it's safe to stop preparing? Absolutely not. CSU's forecast of 9 storms says nothing about where those storms will go or who they'll hit. Nearly every major hurricane disaster in history occurred during a season with a manageable overall storm count. Hurricane Andrew in 1992 struck during a season with only 7 named storms. What matters is the total count. It's whether one storm finds your location. Stay prepared. Supply stocked evacuation routes, known regardless of how quiet the season looks on paper. As the next wave nears the Lesser Antilles Saturday, expect rising rain chances in Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, particularly during peak afternoon evening convection. Northern Venezuela, Guyana, and Suriname will see added moisture as well. Bermuda stays quiet. Systems near Newfoundland and the Canadian Maritimes are extratropical and unrelated to the tropical pattern, though they'll bring showers to the northeastern U.S. and Atlantic Canada. Over the weekend, nothing severe. Monsoon moisture continues over Arizona and New Mexico, with Baja California staying mostly dry and West Mexico's Pacific slope seeing scattered showers. Houston and the Texas Gulf Coast should see improving storm chances by week's end. The mid-Atlantic, eastern Canada, and New England are in line for better storm chances. Saturday, with some thunderstorms possible, into Sunday morning. We're at an inflection point in the 2026 Atlantic season. The historic quiet has been a blessing. Fewer storms means fewer lives disrupted. But the season doesn't wrap up in early August. The climatological peak isn't until September 10th, meaning the busiest stretch is still ahead. The water is warm, disturbances keep coming, and models are starting to hint at organization. El Niño remains the dominant suppressing force, and will likely stay that way, but suppression is the same as elimination. One storm in the right place at the right time is all it takes to upend someone's life. So don't panic, but don't tune out either. Over the coming 10 days, expect close tracking of the waves emerging off Africa, the modeling attempting to develop them, the behavior of shear and dust, and whether that brief window of lower resistance actually materializes. Whatever comes of it, welcome rain for parched islands or something. That demands closer attention. You'll have the full picture here before it catches anyone off guard. The tropics are stirring. Let's keep watching together.